everybody. We're here with Ellis Libby, '09 graduate, basketball team captain, and Cole Aldrich, the '07 graduate and team captain. Well, we're really excited to have these guys here. We wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about, what's going on with your life right now, Ellis. How are things going? What's up with you?
Good. Yeah, I'm working in the steel industry. Living here in Bloomington, living at the parents' old residence. So they moved out and I moved in. So it's married, and life is good here. Yeah, back being in Bloomington.
Cole?
I just finished my 8th year playing professionally. I always come back here to Minnesota during the summer times, last 2 years with the Wolves. And currently just a free agent, trying to kind of figure out where the next place is.
Okay, good. Let's go back to your early years. I wanted to, take you back to when you guys were young. How'd you get into basketball? How were you starting out? How'd you start out, Ellis?
Yeah, my dad played basketball in college, and so I just kind of got a ball in my hand. I remember my grandma gave me a little Tykes hoop, and my parents said that's all I would do all day, every day, just throw the ball in there. So kind of growing up, my dad's been a big advocate for me to play basketball, and they've kind of been the bridge for me to really enjoy and maybe my passion for that. So.
Cole, how about you?
I think it was like 4th or 5th. I think 4th grade is when I started. Yeah, I was probably 5'9" at the time. Yeah. My parents just signed me up to play, and I think I played 1 year of BAA, and then I went and tried out for traveling. And I'm sure some people that knew me back then was probably like, "Oh boy, there's no way that this dude is ever even going to make the A team or continue on with high school or anything." And sure enough, I mean, I shot the ball kind of pretty much the way I do now. And I think that's just kind of how it started. Just out there just working hard and having fun.
Well, that's a good way to start. And so, Ellis, any coaches you remember on your way up? People that had an impact on you, not only in basketball, but maybe your life.
Yeah, my dad was coaching and traveling, which is always kind of cool to see your dad. It's always an interesting relationship with that. I remember Brian Sikora, former alum here. He was my freshman coach, and he was kind of a guy who brought some tenacity to not only myself but my teammates. So it was kind of fun to have him coach and just throw a little, almost like we call swagger to him, and he had a lot of swagger. So he was kind of influential, and then obviously you and Jeff. We're good kind of with that, yeah.
And Cole?
A lot of coaches over the years. I think kind of starting off was Bruce Erickson and Steve Heinen. Mm-hmm. Going through those ugly days of trying to teach me how to play basketball and learn the game, and then getting into kind of early AU with Scott Cates and Parrish Curry, and then, getting to high school with you guys, and been fortunate enough to have good college coach and a few good NBA coaches too.
And so now we're going to move on to you guys in your high school years. And Cole, we'll start with you because as a freshman, that was the '04 year. Mm-hmm. You came in, and there was another big player by the name of John Vaudreuil. You want to talk a little bit about maybe the impact he played on your development, or just breaking you into the Jefferson way?
I mean, just being a 14-year-old, just a young kid, not really knowing what to expect. And I was really, really good at that point in time, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into coming in and playing in the Lake Conference. And Vaudreuil was awesome. He was a guy that never was like, I'm not going to teach you anything. He kind of basically just brought me under his wing and was like, hey, I'm here to help you, and we're going to try to win as many games as we can. We need you. And, I always had to guard like Spencer Tollickson and Ryan Amoroso just because, he didn't want to do that. He had done it over the years so many times. He's like, you go for it. And just getting kind of beat up by him and those other guys, really kind of showed me the way.
Yeah, he probably backed off because he got an elbow in the ribs against Jeffers one time, so that's probably why he walked away from that experience. Any games or teammates you remember from your first year?
I think Vaudreuil is probably the main influence for me. Being a big guy, being a guy that was a senior, he was kind of my vet and showed me the ropes, and still really good friends with him now. And we go back and joke back and forth over a few beers and tell some stories, and it's always fun to reminisce on those days.
And I don't know if it was your freshman year or sophomore year. It might have been your sophomore year where we were up at Bethel and we were playing Mounds View. And the first half, they just could not stop you. I remember that. And I remember walking off the floor and Ziggy Cull saying, he's going to be a pretty good player. And then I remember they kind of just collapsed on you the second half and tried to make us, beat them from the outside. Was that your sophomore year? I'm trying to recall.
I think it was my sophomore year because North was really good my freshman year, if I remember right. They had the real big kid. I don't know if he.
Davis.
Yeah.
3.
Was that the year before I got there?
Yeah, they won.
But so, anyways, I mean, I remember bits and parts of certain games that I've played for so long that I kind of forget. And then I'll just remember, like, oh yeah, remember this game and remember this play. Oddly enough, after 10 years has passed, you do remember a few things here or there.
Anything physically? I mean, as far as the size, because you're coming out of an 8th grade year and the 9th grade, and here you are now. You're at the varsity level, and the size, the speed of the game. Did you notice anything incredibly different about that?
A huge jump.
Yeah.
Vaudreuil, a guy that is not small in his own right. I mean, he's probably a little undersized center at 6'6", but just a strong, big kind of bruiser. And he was one that kind of helped me through that because I did have to guard Spencer Tollickson and Ryan Amoroso and a few other guys, and that physicality going from basically playing 8th grade AAU, or even I probably played up a few years in AAU, but playing some of those guys helped me prepare a little bit, but didn't really understand what that jump was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we moved to the 05 season now. We've got a nice group of talent coming up. You have Jake Dahman, who was a year older than you. Steve Wheeler's coming in, playing a little bit. Augie's playing. We had Goose.
Yeah. Goose.
Yeah. You can tell a story about Goose.
I have way too many stories about Goose. I know you remember this one. Goose was in practice. I don't think you were on the team yet, Ellis. I think it was your freshman year, but he comes down and hits a 3 at the top of the key, if I remember right, and just decided to start talking crap. He takes like a fake phone out of his pocket and ding, 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 dialing long distance.
It's a good line. It's a pretty good line.
It was really good. It was just, you kind of just stopped and you had to laugh because it was Goose.
He was a good shooter. I remember coaching him at JV, and when we run our secondary break, he'd always trail, and he'd be standing right up there wide open, and he'd just stand there, and he'd pass it. We had a time I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Well, can I shoot it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he drilled like 3 in a row, and I remember his dad jumping up and down. I can still remember him jumping up and down in the stands over there. But yeah, so we had a pretty good group of talented guys coming up, and I think those 2 years, as far as records go, we did the best we could.
I think we were 9-15, if I remember right. My sophomore year, 12-13 my freshman year.
Okay.
And then I think my junior year is really kind of where we were able to have everybody kind of come together along with my senior year.
And the freshman and sophomore year, I believe both those first round games in the playoffs were Eden Prairie. It always seems like we picked up Eden Prairie right away. And
yeah.
Do you recall anything from those region games? Anything you took away from those?
Whitman, Sam Eicher, just those guys. It was always a tough rivalry. We had a rivalry with Kennedy, but they weren't always as good. But you had Eden Prairie. They always were that team to beat in the Lake Conference, and knocking us out, it kind of always gave us some frustration.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to move into your junior year, and we're going to move into your freshman year then.
Yeah.
And your freshman year, you alluded to the fact that Brian Sikora coached you. but you also had a big guy by the name of Jake Cuppy that came in, and I know Jake was a pretty knowledgeable coach.
Yeah.
You guys had a really successful freshman year. You want to tell us a little about that year?
Yeah, we had a bunch of guys, mostly on the A team, but guys come up from the B team, and we all kind of mingled. And, as people grow and develop, as high school kids do, we didn't really know what to expect. We had Jake Cuppy there and Brian Sikora, both college athletes who, really can push it and, read up on. They're very good with kids. So, they challenged us, they pushed us as much as we could, but they also had fun with us too, and made us, I think, enjoy and be passionate about basketball, but also enjoy basketball to keep going. Cuppy, I remember at practice, at the end of practice, he'd lay on his back, half court, and fling the ball in. And once he hit one, then we could end practice. And he was pretty good at it, so it only took about 3 or 4 shots sometimes.
Wow, I never knew that. So now we move to your junior year. All right, we've got, like we said, Jake Dominant and Augie and Goose had transferred. Matt Schlangen, yourself. I'm trying to remember if there anybody else I'm missing there.
There's somebody we're missing.
Well, Aaron Barmore came in towards the end of the year and came a little bit too, but you had a real successful season going. Why don't you talk a little bit about that year and what you recall when you went down?
If I remember right, I had a stress reaction in my left fibula, I think it was, and I was got 3 games, something along those lines. But I think you kind of take from what we maybe didn't do as much as we wanted to my sophomore year, and then you bring it into our junior year where Steve and you have all those guys that were now seniors, another year of experience.
Yeah, and Johnny Mays was another one that started to play.
Yeah.
He was injured.
Yeah.
He had a knee issue that whole year.
Yeah.
In and out of the year.
Yeah. So having those guys, have an extra year. I, at that point in time, had 2 years of varsity playing. We kind of were like, all right, this is like a really good year. And then, Mays kind of goes down, and I was down for a few games, and I'm trying to think of who we lost to in sections.
We lost to Eden Prairie.
It was Eden Prairie again? Was that the game in Shakopee, or was that
Burnsville.
It was at Burnsville?
Yeah, we had beaten Eden Prairie the first game, and then I think you were out the second one. You may have been out the second one, and then the region final game. The first game we held Whitman down. The last one, he just exploded.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that if you let him get going, he'd have 35, no problem. He was kind of a little bit like Steve Wheeler in a way. Good shooter, athletic, could just really play good ball.
Yeah. Yeah, so now we'll move into the 07 year. And an interesting fact of that year is that I think most of the guys you played with started coming up. So you had Johnny Mays, Grant started, Erickson, yourself,
Eric Christensen,
and then it'll come to me. Who are we missing? Our 5th starter.
Barmore.
Yeah. Barmore. Yeah. And so Aaron was really the only one that wasn't, a part of your group coming up. So talk about the beginning of that year. Ellis, you can start off with that. Talk about the beginning of that year, what your expectations were.
Yeah, I'll kind of start on my side. Being a sophomore coming up, you don't know what you'd expect. You see all these guys growing up. And so kind of coming into a team, he was starting to get a lot of public, or had getting a lot of public recognition. So at first, for my kind of expectation was, I just want to be part of this team and enjoy it. There's maybe some opportunities, and some things kind of went my way. But I think there's some high expectations kind of the seniors had set on themselves. And I think you guys, coaches, did as well. As like, hey, we want to make this a powerful, we're good. This is a good unit. We had a lot of good players, a lot of good role players. And you guys set some good expectations kind of coming in. And for me, I was just trying to be a sponge. So that's what I was, trying to be coming in and not knowing where I'd land.
So what did you think coming into that year?
It was kind of the last go-round for us. Mays and I had played together since we were 5th or 6th grade. So we had played together for so many years, and with Barmore in the mix, and Ellis, coming in kind of halfway through, we just wanted to win another state title. I think is really what we did, what we wanted to do, and ultimately we didn't. But back then, you know how it was. They just kind of Section 6 played Section 3, and we just happened to end up with the second best team in the state, and that was Apple Valley. And we had tied them for the conference earlier. I think we played them the last game of the year, and that was
we played them. Yes, you're right. Last game of the year.
Yeah, and then it was here, if I remember right. We beat them, and then that was the tie. We both went 1-1 and had the same record in conference. And then we had, who was it that we played in the Tonka in the conference finals?
The region finals.
Went to overtime.
Yep.
And it was just kind of like, once we got through that one, we were kind of like, okay, we made it through conference. We made it through a little bit of postseason. Now here is the state tournament. And it was a doozy to start from the beginning.
Yeah, it was. And I look back at your senior year, there were two kids that could have had an impact on the team. Bobby Companion, who was point guard, who was hurt out the entire year. And then another sophomore that made an impact was Moses, but Chad Gilmer. He had a bad ankle, I believe, all through his career, and he was quite an athlete. And I think he might have played a role for you guys too. So you guys get halfway through this season. In the conference, did you guys know halfway through the year you guys were 7-5?
I did not, no.
And then you went on like an 8-game winning streak.
I think we lost 6 games. We would have been that year because we lost that last game.
Yeah.
Right around that time, one of my favorite stories from this is I'm starting to get a little more comfortable with the guys. And so after practice, we're kind of shooting around, and I think I maybe scored my first varsity point over that winter break when we played at Orono. And these guys were harassing me, and I think they just kept harassing me. So I went outside.
We would never do such a thing.
Went outside, grabbed a snowball, just launched it right at the big fella, nail him. I start running around. Him and John Mays grab me, and they launched me outside and shut the door. And there you can't get in. And so I'm sitting there knocking on the door for about 5 minutes in my practice uniform, sweating.
It's about 6 degrees below zero.
So that was my humbling moment to never mess with the seniors.
And so then we talked about too, Moses and Ellis. Because I mean, those two would sub in right away.
Yeah.
And come in and give you guys some really good moments. Tell us a little bit about those two and what they gave you guys coming off the bench.
Well, I think, I guess I would say coming off the bench, maybe a little loosely, just in the fact that they were coming in fairly early in the game. But Moses gave another scoring option for us. Ellis was kind of just the guy that you knew was going to be solid. He wasn't going to do anything spectacular, but he was going to make the right play and put people in the right position to be successful. And you'd come down and he'd be, all right, we're running black 35. And he would make sure that guys were in their place. And, to have him kind of mold into what we needed him to my senior year and your sophomore year, I think kind of really catapults you to kind of be that leader the next few years.
And also, I just remember you being at the right place at the right time, or getting your hands on a ball in the critical situation, or, it was always like you were maybe a play ahead.
Yeah, I think that stems from my lack of athleticism. I was always a below the rim type player, so you got to think one step ahead. If you can't beat with your feet, you got to beat with your brains. That's kind of my philosophy. So in order to be, like kind of we talked about, if you want to be on the court, you got to play defense first. And then scoring, we had plenty of scoring options, so I really didn't have to be that. But always trying to think ahead and be one step ahead was always my role in order to be a part of the court.
So